So in your journey in quote unquote solving this problem or diving deeper into uncovering the deepest part of who you are, in spite of all these layers of neurotic thoughts that you may have, what have you come across to be the most authoritative? What's your 80-20, right? What's the 20% that's going to get you to the deepest part of your insight?
Yeah, great question. And there's a very succinct answer.
Go for it.
Is this answer with one thing. This is actually quite stupid. This, however, and so the more you listen to this and your intuition and guidance, the more you're using this as a tool rather than being used by it. Now, for me, I don't know if I shared this with you. I was in a relationship with a man that I love of my life. And I realized through numerous situations that really he was far ahead of me in the spiritual journey. And long story short, I broke up with him, realizing that was the stupidest thing I've ever done, and then realizing that everything happens for a reason. And that said, on the one hand, the other side of it was, I'm not sure that I ever cried as much in my entire life. So you go into that pain. You go into that pain and you excavate, and it's even more painful, and you cry even more, and you figure out why, and why am I allowing somebody else to have this much hold over me? I don't care whether it's your boss at work or your shareholder or your significant other. No, nobody, right, should have that much power over you. And so you go inside, and in my case, I realized, oh my God, I was allowing the other person to dictate me rather than fully showing up in the relationship and loving the person for who they are, not wanting them to be something different, and even worse yet, allowing my self-worth to be determined by what they thought about me or didn't, right? And that has corollaries across business, right? Business partners, how do you choose them? Or shareholders, how do you choose them? All of that. And so you have to go deeper and deeper. And three things that really allowed me to skip generations, not just years, but generations, and probably even and centuries in some respects, is first, Abraham Hicks.
Any specific place to start for those who are interested?
Yeah. Abraham, you want me to say who Abraham Hicks is? Or
No. Any, what should they Google? Abraham Hicks in a book, Abraham Hicks in a course, any place to start, because
if you have Spotify, I would just put Abraham Hicks into Spotify and start off with the law of attraction, law of deliberate creation, and law of intending. It's the three first chapters of an introduction into the Abraham world. And that will then from there guide you on different branches. That will start really peeling off all the ego. So I promise you, CK, the moment you start listening to Abraham Hicks, all that ego bullshit is going to go aside. That's a promise if you really surrender. It's really surrendering. The other thing that I went through as the second stage to Abraham Hicks is something that a dear friend, who unfortunately passed away recently, invented, which is Akasha, the Game of Life. I think the URL is Play Akasha or Akasha, the Game of Life.
I'll put it in the show notes. I know what.
If you Google it, you'll find it very quickly. Akasha, the Game of Life is what it is. And it's a 30-day process of daily meditations and excavations that is specifically geared to you, right? And this is where you have to, if you don't believe in the zodiac, tough luck. It's based on zodiac and everything around your celestial configurations, etc. And I'll tell you, when you go through it, and if your intuition is starting to already kick in, you'll start seeing why some of those things really are true for you. I'll give you my personal example. When I started going through the Akasha Game of Life, immediately I started seeing why the messages that were being thrown at me were not only eye-opening to me around, oh my God, these messages could not possibly be coming to me if it were about somebody else, because it's literally as if they were written specifically for me. I'm not selling this game very well right now, but I'll say this. By the end of that game, I learned so much about my blind sides, and that's one of the biggest lessons in life you can learn. And it gave me so many tools to, within the day, within the moment, deal with those blind sides, that I immediately became a better executive, better intuitive, period, better human interactor, right? It's all about energy and energy reading. And that entire 30-day process just exponentially challenged the shit out of me, pardon my French. The other one And it's something that I've been meaning to do, and I'm starting that process as we speak, actually, is the Venus sequence, which goes way deeper than even Akasha went. And that has everything to do with your gene keys. Who are you really? And how does the external world affect that? How does it not? It literally has everything to do with, again, your blind spots, your gifts in this life, the synergies with others, and how do you unlock the potential in you by unlocking some of those blind spots and dealing with those blind spots. In my case, I learned, for example, through both of those programs, a lot about my old self used to be, again, ego driven, me ahead of others. How do I achieve the most in my life? Whereas I knew always, since I was a child, that my role in this world was in some way, shape, or form to be an empowerer of change in others and in the world. And I always shunned that because it seemed to be too much of a responsibility. It didn't, necessarily build my bank account. People wanted too much from me. It was energetically draining, etc. Until I started learning the tools that would allow me to unlock that potential and at the same time also allowed to rebalance my energy so that energy wasn't depleting me, but rather fueling me so that I could fuel that impact even more.
Yeah.
What an amazing process, because you're transcending exponentially from there. Those are the three things that I would say: Abraham, Akasha, and the Venus sequence.